Welcome to the 14th Castrol International Rally. Beginning in Ermelo this year, the organisers have decided to cut costs. We hope you're going to stay with us for the next while to watch highlights of this year's rally.
Among the 56 entrants, the reigning South African rally champions were favourites to annex their 6th win since their first in a Datsun in 1975. With the Quattros dominating the rally scene, Ford had high hopes of their entrance challenging Van der Merwe and the second Audi of Jeff Mortimer and Spotty Woodhead. Toyota entered their works Corolla in Class B, which is for locally manufactured cars not exceeding 3,600 cc's. Behind the wheel, Eric Sanders and navigator Guy Hodson. Amongst the strong competition for the Privateer Award were Tony Ball and Martin Buerter, who entered in Class C for locally manufactured cars not exceeding 1,600 cc's. Another Toyota dealer team entrant was the husband and wife team of Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen in Class F for standard locally built cars with engines under 1,600 cc's. Another threat to the dominance of the Quattros came from the Nissan Exa in Class B, driven by Hannes Grobler and navigator Piet Swanepoel, who finished second in 1984. Another strong contender in Class B was the Skyline, driven by Kasi Coetzee and navigator Wiley Harrington. The teams faced a 1,400-kilometre route which took them from Ermelo to many beautiful parts of Swaziland. 7 of the 37 stages took place in South Africa, 3 of them around Ermelo. The first stage was 8 kilometres long. The time allowed to complete the stage was 6 minutes, which meant drivers had to average a speed of 82 kilometres an hour. Distance and average speed were given in the road books to each navigator and were a fair indication to the teams of what was required to remain competitive. Jeff Mortimer and Spotty Woodhead in car number 3, warming the tyres a little on the tar, finished third in a time of 4 minutes and 49 seconds. Their teammates, Sarah van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff, won the stage by 1 second from Damso and Bonafide. Stage 2, around the airfield just outside Ermelo, was only 3 kilometres long, and Damso and car number 1, already under pressure from the Quattro of Sarah van der Merwe, sped through in a time of 2 minutes and 8 seconds. From the outset, Sarah van der Merwe had decided to gain as much advantage as possible from the early stages, which meant very little braking. Thanks to the team manager, Jeff Mortimer, and the service crews of the Quattros, our camera team, with the assistance of Frans Boshoff and Spotty Woodhead, was able to film from remote cameras in each car during the rally. However, this camera couldn't take the pace in Sarah's car and literally fell apart 12 stages later. Van der Merwe and Boshoff won this stage 6 seconds ahead of Damso and Bonafide, while Hannes Grobler in the Exa, number 5, was only 8 seconds behind the leading Class B car of Kasi Coetzee. Jeff Mortimer was suffering from a bad bout of flu and had trouble hearing Spotty Woodhead over the intercom. Nevertheless, he kept in touch with Van der Merwe, finishing the stage a second slower than his teammate in a time of 2 minutes and 3 seconds. The Nissan Costanza, number 8, of Eliseo Miranda, and Antonio Balaka Thomas had to retire later in the evening after rolling in stage 9. With the light already fading at 5:20 and a sharp chill in the air, Damso and Bonafide slipped a further 11 seconds off the pace in this 7-kilometre stage. Time allowed for this stage was 6 minutes, and Van der Merwe and Boshoff sped through in 5 minutes to win their 3rd stage in a row. Class A, in which the Quattros dominate, is for imported or locally manufactured cars with no restrictions regarding modifications or the number of cars built, whereas in Class B and C, a minimum of 200 vehicles must be produced. Modifications in these 3 classes are generally unlimited. The superb form of the Audi Quattro, driven by Sarah van der Merwe, continued to dominate the early stages, with the car number 3 of Jeff Mortimer an ever-present threat in 2nd place overall. Most drivers found this 14.5-kilometre stage a pleasure to drive.
More start corners and so on, but we really enjoy it.
Coetzee, now putting pressure on the 3rd-placed Ford Escort of Damso and Bonafide, won the stage and was only 37 seconds behind and quickening the pace. Jan Hettemer and Heinz Forster were not running smoothly in their mid-engine car with its powerful 3.6-litre supercharged V8. The supercharger drive belt kept coming off, and they had to retire in the next stage when they left the road, hit a bank and bent the rear suspension. So far, 4 cars had been retired, and this stage claimed another 3. Jan Habig and Paul Rilliard were the first to encounter a problem with a water splash.
We had a look at it and I thought it was going to be shallow, and tried to go through it fast, and it was deep, and we got a lot of water on the plugs, and the motor cut out. I think we lost about 5 minutes there.
The service crew for the Quattros had very little else to do but change tyres and refuel, which was a very good indication of how well the cars had been prepared for this rally. This was a superb all-round team effort, which was difficult to match by the other competitors. Already, cars numbers 2 and 3 were in 1st and 2nd position overall. With 7 stages completed, the rally car slipped quickly through a very efficiently run Nurston border post into Swaziland. Another 6 stages awaited the competitors before the regroup at Nhlangano in the southern part of Swaziland at 4 o'clock next morning. Grobler and Swanepoel were not lucky enough to make the regroup, retiring after stage 9 with a suspected blown Welsh plug, and their car was one of 27 retirements after the first 13 stages. After a 4-hour rest, only 29 cars assembled for the 8 o'clock start at Nhlangano. The Escort of Damso had slipped to 4th behind Coetzee, and Sarah van der Merwe, with a comfortable 7-minute lead, could look forward without much pressure to the next 10 stages before the overnight stop at Mbabane. Sadly, on stage 15, car number 1, the Escort of Damso and Bonafide, had to retire with a broken tie rod, and Van der Merwe and Boshoff, having won 12 stages so far, were relaxing slightly. Not that you'd notice, mind you. Cassie Coetzee and Wiley Harrington, in 3rd place overall in car number 4, discovered that Sanders and Hodgson in the Corolla were running much quicker on the 2nd morning, even though the car was picking up problems, one of which was a punctured front right tyre which had destroyed the mudguard.
The problem started just before we entered into Swaziland, where we lost the brakes on the rear entirely, and in rallying, the rear brakes are by far the most important. We did 120 kilometers of stages without the rear brakes, which proved to be somewhat exciting.
Everter and Crick, 8th overall after 13 stages in their VW Golf, had steadily improved in the morning to 4th place overall. Iwitsa likes left foot braking, while the right foot is still on the accelerator. Oh, slightly out of step there. Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen, in 9th place overall after 13 stages, were leading Class F, which is for standard locally built cars with engines under 1600 cc's. Glenn Hall and Peter Cuffley in their VW Golf, which had been 10th overall, were steadily catching the Van der Westhuizens, and by late afternoon had managed to slip into 7th position overall, ahead of Ben van der Westhuizen's Corolla. South of Mbabane, stage 17, stretched over 27 kilometers in and out of the Usutu forest. Time allowed for the stage was 20 minutes, at an average speed of 82 kilometers an hour. Mortimer and Woodhead had won 2 stages, 15 and 16 earlier in the morning, and they won the stage by 8 seconds from Van der Merwe and Boshoff in a time of 17 minutes and 17 seconds. The gun camera, mounted behind the navigator's head, was switched on via a remote control switch by Spotty Woodhead, in between instructions to Jeff Mortimer. Although shaving a few seconds off Sarel's lead of 6 minutes, consolidating their second position was Mortimer's first priority.
I should say the team tactics are for us to finish in a strong first and second position at this stage. It's a long way to go, but we'll probably hold station once we're well clear of the rest of the field, which we are at this moment anyway. But one can't really slow down too much because you lose concentration and you're just as likely to have an accident going too slowly as you are going too fast.
The big Nissan Skyline of Cassie Coetzee and Wiley Harrington was lying in 3rd place overall. Coetzee had finished 2nd behind Jan Hettemer in this rally in 1977. He and Wiley Harrington have been rallying together for 2.5 years. Eric Sanders and Guy Hodgson were not at all happy with the problems besieging their Corolla. A valve seat had worked its way loose from the cylinder head and in the process had damaged a piston. The cylinder head was replaced by a less modified one and they were unable to use the full power of the engine. They slipped into 6th place overall, having lost over 15 minutes due to repair work. Van der Merwe and Boshoff continued to ease off and be content with 2nd places. 24 minutes was allowed for this 30.6 kilometer stage, and teammates Jeff Mortimer and Spotty Woodhead won the stage in a time of 21 minutes and 45 seconds. Because of the problems Sanders and Hodgson were having, Dickie Klaver and Peter Rasmus in their Corolla, number 11, improved on their 6th place overall to 5th by the end of the day. Only 2 stages were left before the end of the 2nd day. Stage 22 in the Markens area was a stone's throw away from the tranquility of the paper mill at Bunya. The organized trail of smoke was in sharp contrast to the clouds of dust being raised through the pineapple fields. Helicopter pilot Piet Viljoen expertly kept our cameraman close to the action. Peter and Crick, leading Class E, finished this 14-kilometre stage in 10.5 minutes. And behind them, Dickie Klaver, having benefited from Eric Sanders' difficulties, was now also experiencing an unforeseen problem.
Well, nothing that actually cost us time. We've got a cracked sump, and we're leaking oil at about a rate of a litre per stage. So it's something we can't really fix. We just hope that the sump won't crack any further, and if it stays like it is, we'll probably finish.
And finish they did, in 5th place overall after 23 stages. Another car to finish the second day was that of Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen in 8th position overall. The last stage of the day, within walking distance of the hotels, was short, only 3.5 kilometres long, with a water splash to entertain spectators. Andrew and Chris Birkin in a Ford Escort Mark II, competing in Class B, finished the day 16th overall, but had to retire the following morning when they got stuck in stage 24. Eddie Ruiz and Julie Hull in their Nissan Stanza finished the day 14th overall and in 5th place in Class B. The Nissan 140Z of Bossie Bosman and Thilo van Westenhagen was 15th overall at the end of the day, and they were one of only 20 cars still left in the rally. Back at rally headquarters, sophisticated computer equipment made over 500,000 calculations to keep competitors, press, radio and television up to date with the progress of the rally. Having covered 504 kilometres and 23 special stages, the teams settled into the hotels for a hard-earned rest, firmly convinced that Sarah van der Merwe, barring an accident, was not going to be overtaken. Best performance of the day amongst many was that of Johan Evertse and Jan Crick in Class E in 4th place overall, but closely watched by the two Corollas of Klaver and Sanders. The competitors were off early at 4 a.m, as were our camera crews, to get to Mhlome in the northern part of Swaziland before first light and stage 28. First casualty of the early morning was Dickie Klaver. After winning stage 25, a front wheel bearing seized, putting him out of the rally in stage 26. Still in a comfortable 3rd place, the big skyline of Kasikutsia. The leaders of Class F, Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen in the Corolla number 24. Rain Peters and Gerard Kotze in their Corolla TRD were just 4 minutes behind car 24. And a good time on this 22-kilometre stage would keep the pressure on the leader, Ben van der Westhuizen, in Class F. And then, disaster. Wheels on the left-hand side of the car were firmly lodged in the canal.
Ons het gery en het was 'n skerp regterhandse draai geweest. Ek was 'n bietjie vinnig vir die draai en ek het die kar in die gras opgestel waar 'n sloot in was en toe val ons in die sloot in. Ongelukkig. So dit kos ons nou 'n tweede plek in die klas seker. Baie jammer. Ons gaan nou maar net probeer klaarmaak.
Sadly, it did cost Peter second place in Class F. He also broke his finger attempting to jack the car out of the ditch. Meanwhile, Cook and Chadwick in their Golf GTI shot through behind them. Tony Ball and Martin Butter were also not having it all their own way.
Yes, we have a little problem. I'm Afrikaans speaking and Tony is English speaking, so every now and then I slip an Afrikaans word in there and he says, what? You know? We have what is known as a sonic intercom system with headphones and microphone built into the helmet. So with the noise inside the car, it's quite clear to hear what the other person says.
Tony Ball continued to slide through the next 10.5-kilometre stage. Even though they were the only car still running in Class C, they still remained extremely competitive. Stage 30, near Simunya in the northeast of Swaziland, was another tricky stage through the cane fields, with canals running dangerously close to the side of the roads. At this stage, 15 cars of the 56 starters were still in the rally. 7 of these were privateers, competitors who did not receive more than 5,000 rand a year, either in cash or kind from a manufacturer. In 4th place for the privateer award was car number 44, the Nissan Stanza of Eddie Ruiz and Julie Hull. Rain Peters, in the Corolla TRD, now driving with an extremely painful broken finger, was now under pressure from Carlo Andreatta and Ivor Viet in their Alfa Romeo GTB6, who were the only team left in Class D. With 5 stages left, the rally moved southeast to Big Bend for stage 32, where a rather interesting river crossing awaited the teams. Having already lost 5 minutes through the water on stage 7 2 nights ago, Jan Habig and Paul Rilliard, in 2nd place for the privateer award, couldn't afford to lose any minutes in the river. Oh, dear. Not much time was lost. In contrast, Mortimer and Woodhead were enjoying the last leg of the rally, although they'd been very wary of the sugarcane stages earlier that morning.
Those are always rougher than they look, you know. The roads are wet and they fill them up with rubble and fill and rock and stuff to try and make a decent road surface. And the stuff is very sharp and you have to be careful to don't collect fractured sidewalls on tyres and things like that. And the corners are very tight, all sort of 90 degrees left, right. And some of the faster roads next to the canals are pretty slippery and you want to be careful, otherwise you end up in a canal or something like that, which has happened to lots of people before me. But otherwise we're just sort of pacing our way to the finish really now. And hopefully we'll arrive there intact.
Mortimer and Woodhead won this 22-kilometre stage in just under 13 minutes, bringing the total number of stages they took to 11. Sorrel, having won 18, was still comfortably in 1st place overall. Martin Botha didn't have a happy river crossing at all. Once stuck, Martin Botha checked under the bonnet, and then luck took over. Forgot to secure the bonnet. Lying 3rd for the privateer award and 2nd in Class F were Bossie Bosman and Thilo van Westenhagen in their Nissan 140Z. They had also benefited from Rain Peters' mishap on stage 28, where he'd lost 30 minutes. Alfa Romeo GTB6 of Carlo Andreatta and Ivor Viet went very well, and they were rewarded with a win in Class D and 12th position overall. The leading privateer was car number 23, driven by Des Williams and Frick de Klerk, who were in 8th position overall. 3 stages later, their differential jammed and put them out of the rally. So close to the finish and the award.
Oh, the pads are all right. They'll just make it to the end.
A change of tyres for Jeff Mortimer, who won stage 35 by 1 second from Sarah van der Merwe in a time of 19 minutes. The stage, south of Manzini, was 33 kilometres long. Time allowed 22 minutes at an average speed of 90 kilometres an hour. Jan Habig, with a slightly modified bonnet, was now leading the privateer class, but lost time on the stage, finishing in 27 minutes. Kasi Kutsia, who's only done rallying and not ventured into other forms of motor racing, certainly handled the big skyline with ease and had Wiley Harrington to thank for fast and clear instructions. They had led Class B since the first night of the rally and well-deserved 3rd place overall. In close attendance was the air rescue helicopter of the National Road Safety Council, which was very well equipped and staffed to deal with any emergency. Only 2 stages left, and Sorrell was pleased with their performance.
Well, it's been fairly uneventful for me. I think should we win this rally, it will most probably have happened on the very first night. I decided to go pretty quickly from the start and try and open a gap, which we did. And from then on, it's been a case of actually trying just to maintain my lead and not break anything and not hit anything. The car's in very good condition at this point in time, and we've had very little to do, really.
With 18 stage wins, a number of 2nd places, and a 6-minute lead, Van der Merwe and Boshoff were content to let Jeff Mortimer and Spotty Woodhead win this 14-kilometre stage in 9.5 minutes. But as fate would have it, the Quattro was not going to have a trouble-free rally altogether. Halfway through the stage, the left rear tyre gave notice of impending trouble. With the rubber breaking off, Van der Merwe was not about to stop and find out what the problem was, and completed the stage 51 seconds behind Mortimer.
Would you like to tell us what happened?
I don't really know where it happened. That is a wheel that I thought was going flat.
The final 3.5-kilometre stage before the finish. And having won 15 stages this far, Mortimer and Woodhead in 2nd place overall were not about to do anything foolish. Mortimer won this event in 1974 and collected 3/3 in 1977, 78 and the last in 83 with Spotty Woodhead, who had won the South African Navigators Championship in 1975. They rounded off this year's event by winning the last stage in 2 minutes and 25 seconds, a second ahead of Van der Merwe and Boshoff. This confirmed the 2nd place overall and 2nd position in Class A behind Van der Merwe. The end of 37 special stages for Jeff Mortimer and Spotty Woodhead, and our gun camera. The service crew of Sanders and Hodgson had put in a tremendous amount of work to keep their Corolla in the rally and were well rewarded with 6th place overall. "788 kilometers of special stages had been covered by the 14 classified finishers, 6 of which were privateers. This was Sarah van der Merwe.